All right, so now we are going to get into the offer portion of this. So the 2T is where you will put the offer. Like I said, the more information you put, the better. So this is where you would put the deed and the page, and of course be in there. If there's a block and section, you will add that information there. So the plat book and slide, you can usually find that on the county deed of registry. So just search that if you want. Some people don't put it, some people do. It just depends on you. All right, so this is where you will put the due diligence fee. Some will have due diligence, some won't. In our market today, usually you need due diligence. So we'll put $2,000. And of course, this will auto, calculate for you. When it comes to earnest money, we usually use personal check, official bank check. You can also do a wire transfer or an electric transfer, and we usually put within 5 days. You just want to make sure everything is filled out. So we see that Michael Newell's there. Due diligence period, I usually do just 3 weeks. So, and the settlement date should already be filled out. Again, you're just going to make sure everything is filled out. All right, if there is no leased items or owned items, like I said, I suggest you just put NA, or I usually, like I said, I put tons and tons of X's on there. This is also just to prevent that, people from adding extra information that was never agreed upon. So put that. If there's personal property, usually we do refrigerator. And 2 garage keys. If there's a shed, you want to put a shed. Any personal property that they agreed on, like a playset, blinds, anything else, make sure you just put that on there, because some people will take blinds. Just make sure everything's on there. All right. So if they're using a loan, make sure you put does and VA loan. That's the one we'll use. If they're using conventional, click conventional, FHA, whatever else. Or if there's an other, do that as well. And we put fixed at 150, 30, and 5. If you know what the interest rate is, then put the interest rate. But for now, we're just going to put 5. It does not. If they do, make sure you put that in there. That is information they need to know. They need to know if they have to sell another property. That is material fact that they need to know, because that will depend on whether they accept or decline an offer. So make sure you put that information. If it's not on there, it's definitely going to be on the pre-offer letter. So like I said, just make sure you put that information on there. And if there is a copy of these disclosures, the residential property and mineral and oil, make sure that your buyer signs it and you click on these. If they do not have it in the MLS, please make sure you put do not receive, because that is so important. They need to have that, because if by the 3rd calendar day that they do not have this, the buyer can have the option to back out. So this needs to be signed. So whenever they do receive it, then you can of course go back and check it. But again, this is just to, just to make sure that it saves the buyer and, it doesn't, hold anybody when it comes to liability reasons. We're going to put, it has been more than a year. Usually on the MLS, you can find that information. You can usually find this information out as well, but you should also do the research yourself, just to make sure, because sometimes the seller doesn't disclose that, or the listing agent doesn't disclose it. So make sure you do that research yourself as well. And if there's an HOA, make sure that is signed and done. But since there's not, we're just going to put here. And usually the deed will be done here. What is the name of the deed? If they are married and there's a wife, make sure you add her name. Her name needs to be in here. So we're gonna put and Jane Smith. Even though she's not gonna be on the mortgage, she needs to be in the her name needs to be on the deed because North Carolina is a tenant by the entirety state. So her name needs to be on the deed. Make sure it's on the deed. If not, things will get sticky and it'll become a problem when it comes to signing. Of course, this is where you will put whether the seller will pay any closing costs at the settlement. It really depends on what you want to do. That again, that's a negotiation tactic, but we're just gonna put 0 for now. But whatever you think. We usually it's 3 or 2% of the purchase price. But again, it's up to you on whether you want to do that or not. And whether there's a home warranty that's going to be attained or not, again, that's up to you, the buyer and seller. And again, a negotiation tactic, so just choose one of these options. And of course, if there's any other additional forms, make sure you check that off in here if there's going to be any additional forms used. So since there's going to be a VA, we're going to click that. You're going to make sure everything is basically done and it's reflected. So here you will take off your client's email because of course you do not want to give your client's email to the other side of the transaction, just, for safety reasons. You're going to hit what your position is and you're going to put the firm number, which is C30335. Your phone number, if it's missing, make sure you put your phone number and the tax number. And you're going to put the seller's information. If there is any, you don't have to put all of it. Usually they'll do it themselves, but make sure at least your side's done. And go down here, make sure all that's done, and save. We then are going to go to the VA, and you will click VA if they're using VA or if they're using FHA, so make sure you use that if it is. Make sure all the information is correct, and you will have to sign this, so make sure you sign it, and you are done. Alright, so after you are done with all of this, you are going to click on all the forms the buyer needs to sign and share it with them. And I usually put attached PDF because some people are not tech savvy, but again, that's up to you. So make sure you do that and put Ken sign for them. And you're going to hit share. Since this person doesn't exist, we're not going to put that, but that's what you're going to do. So that's basically what you're going to do for the buyer side when it comes to making an offer. In another video, I will do the seller side, but this is basically what you have to do when it comes to making an offer for the buyer.